Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
It
man.
is 9 o'clock.
Good morning.
I trust everyone is doing great. Everyone is on. I think I've heard from everyone. Is there anyone that's missing? Everyone can hear, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Sir.
Let me just a reminder to make sure we put our phones on vibrate or turn them off if we haven't done so already. So again, good morning. Trust everyone is doing great. Good this morning. It's an opportunity to do something great, and we certainly want to take this opportunity to do that. With that being said, I am calling the meeting to order. At this time, I would like to call on Councilman Bailey, who will lead us with the invocation as well as the pledge, and we will remain standing. And I'm also trusting everyone can see the flag behind me. I'm gonna try to move over somewhere we can see it. Okay? Everyone can see the flag?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Councilman Bailey, at this time.
All right, please, everyone, bow your head, please. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear, most gracious, loving Heavenly Father, we pause as we should every day to start our day with a word from our hearts directly to you. You gave us this day today, Lord, to spend time with you, to spend time amongst ourselves, but also to spend time in doing the work of your on this earth for you in your ways that you have taught us by example. Lord, let us understand these times we're going through are confusing, they're unknown, they're uncertain. But there's one thing for certain. You always promise never to leave us nor forsake us, nor to put us under. You always are there with your hand, holding us, carrying us, toting us, keeping our heads above water, keeping us free from the storm, keeping everything calm around us. But at times of turmoil, Lord, teach us to turn towards you even more so and depend on you more so, but never depend on you totally on everything, for you give us the strength to do your work on earth through the Holy Spirit that you have to guide us and counsel us, Lord. So use us today to help guide our city, our department heads, the citizens of our city, in the correct way that you always intended us to be. Keep our hearts pure, our minds clear, and our paths straight. And shall you always shine a light to show us the direction that we should be going. Remember these hard times all over the world, Lord. Keep all of us safe. Put your protective cloak over each and every one of them. Lead us and guide us. Direct us. In Jesus' perfect, precious name, I pray this prayer. Amen.
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 All right, if we could, let's say the pledge, please. To the flag, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
to the
and to
republic,
the republic for which it
stands,
stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
thank you.
that.
Little hard to
Proceeding.
do when that's delayed.
Yeah, but you know, it is what it is. We know where our hearts are. So proceeding on, Council, we do have a couple of presentations, a proclamation that we want to have read. As I stated to you all yesterday, we do not have to do this. The governor has sent orders down that we do not have to do this. But as we all can agree yesterday conclusively and all consented that we need to go over and beyond with these two special cases. The one is being the National Donate Life Month and the other one is Sexual Awareness Month. But we want to go over and beyond, as we all agreed yesterday, to do this for this organization because it's so important. And then it gives everyone an opportunity to see that we do believe in going over and beyond for our community. So with that, at this time, I'd like to call on our clerk, Mrs. Lee, for the reading of the first proclamation. Mrs. Lee.
Thank you. Whereas 112,000 Americans and 1,400 Alabamians are currently on the national transplant waiting list. And whereas another person is added to the waiting list every 10 minutes, and so on average, 22 people die every day because the organs they need are not donated in time. And whereas the most effective way to address this health crisis is to educate and encourage citizens to commit to the following actions. Register your decision to be an organ eye, and tissue donor in the National Donate Life Registry, registerme.org, or legacyofhope.org, or at your local DMV office, and learn more about living donation. And whereas the Donate Life cause of saving and healing lives through organ, eye, and tissue donation is of such immediate and worthwhile importance. One of the most meaningful gifts a human being can give is the gift of life. Now, therefore, I, Eddie N. Lowe, Mayor of the City of Phenix City, Alabama, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim that the City of Phenix City observes April as National Donate Life Month in Phenix City, Alabama.
Thank you so much, Ms. Lee. Again, we just wanted to pay privilege to this organization and to give homage to this organization for giving people a second chance, because we've all been given a second chance one way or another. But as Mrs. Lee stated, the greatest thing that we can have is the life that's been given to us. And so we do not want to take that for granted. We do want to thank this organization for keeping us accountable as far as reminding us for that. So thank you so much, Ms. Lee. And if you can proceed on and reading the second proclamation for the Sexual Awareness Month. Mrs. Lee.
Thank you. Whereas in the United States, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, SAM. The goal of SAM is to raise public awareness about sexual violence and educate communities on how to prevent it. SAM calls attention to the fact that sexual harassment, assault, and abuse is widespread and impacts every person in this community. And whereas rape, sexual assault, and sexual harassment harm our community, and statistics show 1 in 5 women and 1 in 67 men will be raped at some point in their lives. And whereas child sexual abuse prevention must be a priority to confront the reality that 1 in 6 boys and 1 in 4 girls will experience sexual assault before age 18. And whereas on campus, 1 in 5 women and 1 in 16 men are sexually assaulted during their time in college. And whereas this year, SAM is celebrating its 19th anniversary. The theme for this year's campaign, I Ask, helps empower all of us to help to put consent into practice and share the message that asking for consent is a normal and necessary part of sex. Now, therefore, I, Eddie N. Lowe, Mayor of the City of Phenix City, and on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2020 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Phenix City, Alabama, and I urge everyone to join advocates and communities across the country in taking action to prevent sexual violence. Each day of the year is an opportunity to create change for the future.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lee. We
Yes.
thank you for reading that proclamation. We also thank the organization for, again, reminding us that, unfortunately, there are sad situations such as this that happen in our community as well as this country. But again, we're just so thankful that we're reminded that we do have the responsibility to make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do to help eradicate this. So thank you so much. Thanks to the organization. Thank you, Mrs. Lee, for
Yes.
reading that proclamation. Council, we'll go ahead and proceed on. Under the city clerk at this time, Ms. Lee, do you need to drink any water?
No,
You
sir, I'm
okay?
good. Thank you.
Okay. Next, under the city clerk council, we have the approval of the regular scheduled meeting minutes for the April the 6th, 2020 work session, as well as April the 7th council meeting. And at the pleasure of the council, we will take these all together as one vote. And so with that being said, at this time, council, I'd like to call for a motion for the approval of the April the 6th work session, as well as April the 7th council meeting. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Is second, Mr. Bailey? Was that Mr.
Gordon.
Bailey? Oh, Mr. Gordon, I'm sorry. We have a motion and a second. I'd like to call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lowe.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Next, council, are there any unfinished business at this time? Okay. There not being any, we'll proceed on with the resolutions and under administration. The first resolution is a resolution in reference to authorizing the mayor and the city manager to enter into an agreement with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood Incorporation to improve ADA and pedestrian accessibility along 14th Street between 5th Avenue and Broad Street in the amount of $64,076.03. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. Whereas the city of Phoenix City has received transportation alternatives program TAP funds to improve ADA and pedestrian accessibility along 14th Street between 5th Avenue and Broad Street. And whereas engineering and inspection services will be required during construction of said project. And whereas Goodwin Mills and Kaywood has provided a proposal in the amount of $64,076.03 for this scope of services. The Alabama Department of Transportation, ALDOT, concurs with the scope and fees associated with this proposal. And whereas the city of Phoenix City will receive 80%, $51,260.82 federal funding and pledges 20%, $12,815.21. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Phoenix City, Alabama does hereby authorize the mayor and city manager to enter into an agreement with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood for above said project. Passed, approved, and adopted is 21st of April 2020.
Okay. Council, we've heard the reading of the resolution. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion for approval. May I have a motion, Council?
Motion to approve.
All right. Motion, Mrs. Johnson. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Bailey.
Correct.
Any comments or discussion?
I just have a brief comment and would ask our city leaders to expound a little bit, if we may. It is so important that we continue to have accessibility throughout our community. And this is one of those projects that will do just that. So this is an extension of some of the work that has already been done. But if we could just have someone from the city official office to kind of expound a little bit more on the importance of continuing the accessibility along 14th and 5th. And will we be able to do it other parts of our city? Just let our citizens know what we're doing and the project intent.
Go ahead, Steve. Steve?
Steve Smith.
Okay, I'll take it. It must be, he's muted. Can you hear Steve?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. Mike had me muted. He unmuted me. Yeah, this is an area for an extension where we're making the sidewalks and the curb and gutter and everything ADA accessible. We have a program that we've been doing for several years where we're going in all areas of the city and improving the handicap accessibility, putting in handicap ramps and other things. It's a long-term project. It's you got hundreds of miles of streets and areas that need to be improved. But this is an area where we were able to receive an 80% grant to improve that area, and it gets a lot of traffic. And so we're moving forward with this. But we also, in addition to this, are spending money in efforts where we're improving handicap accessibility in all areas of the city.
Great.
Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other comments? Thank you, Steve, so very much. If not, at this time, we'd like to call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lowe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the administration is a resolution in reference to authorizing the mayor, city manager, and fire chief Kristen H. Kennedy to sign a MOU agreement with Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation Incorporation. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. Whereas the city of Phoenix City, Alabama wishes to enter into an agreement with Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation Incorporated for grant funding. And whereas it will be a benefit to the city of Phenix City, Alabama and Phenix City Fire Rescue to enter into this agreement with Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation Incorporated. The grant is 100% funded in order to purchase 8 cardiac science G5 automated external defibrillator packages, which includes the AED, 1 set of adult pads, and 1 battery. Additionally, this will include 8 G5 hard-sided cases, 8 spare batteries, 8 sets of AED pads in the amount of $15,800.40 for the city of Phenix City and Phenix City Fire Rescue. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Phenix City, Alabama, that the mayor and city manager as authorizing officials and Kristen H. Kennedy as fire chief are hereby authorized to enter into an agreement and to sign the necessary documents for the above referenced MOU agreement with Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation Incorporated. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st of April, 2020.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lee.
Yes.
Council, we've all heard the reading of the resolution. At this time, council, I'd like to ask for a motion for the approval of this resolution. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
All right, motion, Mr. Gordon, second, Mr. Day.
It's fine.
Have that, Melanie?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, any comments or discussion?
If I could, I'd like to say something on this, Mayor. I just
Okay.
want to thank the Chief Christian Kennedy for staying the course with this. I understand this was not the first time she put in for this grant. This was, I think, the second time. But she stayed the course with it. She has our firefighters completely at heart. She does everything necessary down there to give them the very best opportunity to have the best equipment to work with and the best people to work with. And I just want to give her a shout out and tell her thank you for that. And thank all our firefighters for sticking together and being willing to be the first responders sometimes in the very places that the rest of us would run from. So thank you, Chief Kennedy, and I thank you for staying the course and not taking no for an answer. And continue to do what you're doing, please.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Bailey. Thank you, Chief Kennedy. Any other comments? If not, I'd like to call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proceeding on, Council on Administration. We have a resolution and public notice in reference to making applications to the Bureau of Justice Assistance for Coronavirus Emergency Supplement Funding Program fiscal year 2020, formula grant for financial assistance for the police department. At this time, I'd like to ask for the clerk to read the resolution and public notice. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. The resolution reads as follows. Whereas the United States Federal Government Bureau of Justice Assistance through the Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program Solicitation Fiscal Year 2020 Formula Grant Solicitation under the Omnibus Crime Control and Safe Streets Act of 1986, PL 90-351 as amended, and other appropriate federal laws, have made available $71,450 in funds for local solicitation. And whereas the Phenix City Police Department, hereinafter referred to as applicant, is of the opinion that it would be beneficial to make application for such assistance. And whereas said applicant agrees to be accountable for providing the cash match toward the total cost of said project. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Phenix City, Alabama, that the mayor and city manager as authorizing officials and Raymond J. Smith as chief of police are hereby authorized and directed to make application to the Bureau of Justice Assistance Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program fiscal year 2020 formula grant solicitation for said financial assistance. The public notice reads as follows. Notice is hereby given that the Phenix City Police Department has made application to the Bureau of Justice for a Coronavirus Emergency Supplemental Funding Program fiscal year 2020 grant for the proposed purpose to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus for the police department. The City of Phenix City does solicit input from the public on the use of the funds. A public hearing on the matter will be conducted during the regularly scheduled council meeting set for 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday, May the 5th, 2020, in the council chambers of the Public Safety Building located at 1111 Broad Street, Phenix City, Alabama, or, if needed, via the teleconference platform Zoom. Those wishing to comment on the matter may appear before council or by phone via the teleconference platform Zoom at the aforementioned time and place to be heard. Comments or questions may be submitted in writing to Raymond J. Smith, Chief of Police, 1111 Broad Street, Phenix City, Alabama, 36867, or by phone at 334-448-2817 between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee.
Thank you.
Council, at this time, I'd like to ask for a motion for the approval of the public notice as well as putting this resolution on first reading.
Motion to
Ma'am.
approve of the resolution and also the first reading.
Public notice and the first reading of the resolution. You got
Public
that, Mrs. Lee?
And the first reading. Okay.
Yes,
You
sir.
got that, Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir.
Okay, council, any
Second.
comments or discussion? Okay, if that, I'm
Do we have
sorry,
someone to second?
did we have a second?
A second.
I'll second.
Who seconded?
Carter Johnson.
Mrs. Johnson? Okay, we have the
Yes.
motion by Mr. Day and a second by Mrs. Johnson. Okay. Any comments or discussion?
Yes, as I said on yesterday, Mayor, I noticed some of our cities, large city have received more of these funds. And can we get Chief to elaborate on it for the citizens of Phoenix City, why that was happening?
Yes, sir, Mr. Day and Mayor and Council. Good morning to everyone. This grant is a supplement grant to the grant that we typically get every year from the Bureau of Justice Administration. This grant is a specific response to the pandemic that we're currently under, and it will help pay for PPE equipment for the police department as well as technology to do online reporting and other things. Any of the equipment that we use to respond to and mitigate the issue for the city, this money will help pay for. The $71,450 that was earmarked for the city of Phoenix City is based on a number of things. One of the things is the population as well as the size of the police department. And so we'll be having, again, a public hearing next council meeting to discuss more specifically some of the equipment and PPE equipment that we'll be looking to get. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, any other comments or discussion? Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, council, proceeding on the fire department. We have a resolution in reference to purchasing one Homotra SR20 PC2 gasoline power unit, one Homotra CU5160 combination tube, and two Homotra 32-foot hydraulic hoses for fire rescue services, engine one, from NAFCO in an amount not to exceed $15,022. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. Whereas Phoenix City Fire Rescue has solicited pricing for extrication equipment for engine one, which includes one Halmatro SR20 PC2 gasoline power unit, one Halmatro CU5160 combination tool, and two Halmatro 32-foot hydraulic hoses. And whereas NAFCO is the apparent single source vendor meeting the required specifications for one Halmatro SR20 PC2 gasoline power unit priced at $6,815, one Halmatro CU5160 combination tool at $6,749, and two Halmatro 32-foot hydraulic hoses for $729 each. The total amount of the equipment is $15,022, including shipping. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Phoenix City, Alabama does hereby accept the price of $15,022, including shipping from NAPCO for one Halmontro SR20 PC2 gasoline power unit, one Halmontro CU 5160 combination tool, and two Halmontro 32-foot hydraulic hoses, provided it meets the required specifications with funds coming from the tobacco tax account. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Lee. Kind of a tongue twister there. We appreciate your reading of the resolution, Council. We've all heard the reading of the resolution. At this time, Council, I would like to ask for a motion for approval. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion, Mrs. Johnson, and was that a second, Mr. Bailey?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. We have the motion and second. Council, any discussions or comments? All right, Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, Council on the Fire Department. We have a resolution in reference to purchasing two Halmontro SR20 PC2 gasoline power units, two Halmontro CU 5160 combination twos, and two Halmontro 32-foot hydraulic hoses for fire rescue services, engine 3 and engine 4, from NAFCO in the amount not to exceed $30,837. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. Whereas Phoenix City Fire Rescue has solicited pricing for extrication equipment for engine 3 and engine 4, which includes two Halmontro SR20 PC2 gasoline power units, two Halmontro CU 5160 combination tools, and two Halmontro 32-foot hydraulic hoses. And whereas NAPCO is a single source vendor meeting the required specifications for two Halmontro SR20 PC2 gasoline power units priced at $7,529 each, one Halmontro CU 5160 combination tool at $6,749, one Halmontro 5160 combination tool at $7,352, and two Halmontro 32-foot hydraulic hoses for $839 each. The total amount of the equipment is $30,837, including shipping. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Phoenix City, Alabama does hereby accept the price of $30,837, including shipping, from NAPCO for two Halmontro SR20 PC2 gasoline power units, two Halmontro CU 5160 combination tools, and two Halmontro 32-foot hydraulic hoses, provided it meets the required specifications with the funds coming from the red light camera account. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lee. Council, we've all heard the resolution. The reading of the resolution. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Motion, Mr. Day. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Gordy. Council, any comments or discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proceeding on, Council, on the Utilities Department. We have a resolution in reference to accepting a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporation and authorizing and directing the mayor and the city manager to sign task order 23 for the proposed professional engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades in an amount not to exceed $675,000. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. Whereas the City of Phoenix City, Alabama is in need of professional engineering services for its utility system. And whereas the city has received a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated Task Order 23, to provide professional engineering services for the wastewater treatment plant upgrades and for preparing application to ADEM for funding of capital projects through the state revolving fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Phenix City, Alabama does hereby accept the proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated and authorizes and directs the mayor and city manager to sign Task Order 23 for the proposed professional engineering services and for preparing the needed applications to ADEM in an amount not to exceed $675,000. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Okay, council, we've heard the resolution. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion, Mr. Gordy. May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Day. Okay, any comments or discussion? Okay. if not-
Mayor, I know we have elaborated that on the past. I know Steve have done this on the past, but let him remind our citizens what we are doing. We realize this is a high dollar project. And again, at the risk of being redundant, I know we have done this in the past, but when the citizens see that amount of money being spent, and we are good stewards of the city funds.
Mr. Smith?
Yeah, certainly. This is part of the city's 5-year capital improvement plan. The Alabama Department of Environmental Management requires us to have a consulting engineer to do the engineering and inspection on major utility projects. This particular resolution is for a $4 million upgrade to our wastewater treatment plant. We have received a grant from the federal government for $1,958,555 that will go towards this project. The next 4 resolutions that we have on the city council are all, again, part of our capital improvement program. We are under a mandate from ADM to do an inspection and upgrade of our collection system. We're currently in the process of inspecting all 4,500 manholes. We're doing smoke testing on the lines. We expect that project to be about $3 million in total spent over the next 3 to 5 years. We'll also be taking out the Saddlebrook lift station and turning that into a gravity situation, which will improve our capacity to serve the northern expansion area of the city. We have a long-standing sewer improvement project over on Bridgewater Drive that will be improving that sewer system there that comes out of the Bridgewater subdivision. And then we'll be bringing a water line down from the Glenwood area down south to better serve the subdivisions that are along Somerville Road. And again, these are 5 of the proposed projects that are part of our 5-year capital improvement plan. We'll have a couple of more projects that will be coming along to the council in the next couple of months, but this is to start this program. They'll be funded over a 20-year period by the Alabama Department of Environmental Management State Revolving Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other comments or discussion? If not, call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Member Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proceeding on, council, on the Utilities Department. We have a resolution in reference to accepting a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporation and authorizing and directing the mayor and the city manager to sign Task Order 24 for proposed professional engineering services for the wastewater collection system upgrades in an amount not to exceed $495,000. Mrs. Lee.
Yes. Whereas the city of Phenix City, Alabama is in need of professional engineering services for its utility system. And whereas the city has received a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated, Task Order 24, to provide professional engineering services for the wastewater collection system upgrades and for preparing application to ADEM for funding of capital projects through the state revolving fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Phenix City, Alabama does hereby accept the proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated and authorizes and directs the mayor and city manager to sign task order 24 for the proposed professional engineering services and for preparing the needed applications to ADEM in an amount not to exceed $495,000. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Okay. Council, we have all heard the reading of the resolution. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion for approval. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Gordon. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Bailey. Council, any comments or discussion? Okay, if not, call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Proceeding on, also on the Utilities Department, we have a resolution in reference to accepting a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporation and authorizing and directing the mayor and city manager to sign task order 25 for the proposed professional engineering services for Bridgewater Drive sewer upgrades in an amount not to exceed $130,000. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. Whereas the city of Phenix City, Alabama is in need of professional engineering services for its utility system. And whereas the city has received a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated, Task Order 25, to provide professional engineering services for the Bridgewater Drive sewer upgrades and for preparing application to ADEM for funding of capital projects through the state revolving fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Phenix City, Alabama does hereby accept the proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated and authorizes and directs the mayor and city manager to sign task order 25 for the proposed professional engineering services and for preparing the needed applications to ADEM in an amount not to exceed $130,000. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir.
Council, we've heard the resolution, the reading of the resolution. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Motion, Mr. Day, and that's the second, Mr. Gordon.
That was Mr. Bailey.
I'm sorry, who's the second one?
Mr. Bailey was second.
Mr. Bailey. Okay. We have that, Melanie. Mr.
Yes.
Day, motion.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey, second. Okay. Council, any comments or discussion? Okay, Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Also next, council, is a resolution in reference to accepting a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporation and authorizing and directing the mayor, the city manager, to sign task order 26 for the proposed professional engineering services for Saddlebrook sewer upgrades in an amount not to exceed $89,000. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. Whereas the city of Phenix City, Alabama is in need of professional engineering services for its utility system. And whereas the city has received a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated, Task Order 26, to provide professional engineering services for the Saddlebrook sewer upgrades and for preparing applications ADEM for funding of capital projects through the state revolving fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Phenix City, Alabama does hereby accept the proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated and authorizes and directs the mayor and city manager to sign task order 26 for the proposed professional engineering services and for preparing the needed applications to ADEM in an amount not to exceed $89,000. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir.
Council, we've heard the reading of the resolution. May I have a motion for approval, please?
Motion to approve.
Motion, Mrs. Johnson. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Gordon. Council, any comments or discussion?
Mayor, if I could, can we get Mr. Smith to explain? I know he explained these projects a while ago, but we're probably going to have some people ask us why our engineering department is not doing these. And I know Mr. Smith explained it to us yesterday because it has to do with ADM, but could he please explain to the citizens?
Mr. Stephen Smith, did you hear?
Certainly, yeah. ADM requires that we have outside consulting engineers to do engineering and consulting. We will be doing a substantial amount of engineering work in-house on these and a couple of other projects that we're working on, but we are required by the state. I mean, they're providing the funding to some extent, and they require us to have outside consulting engineers to do the engineering and the inspection on these projects, much as ALDOT requires that when we do projects that are funded through ALDOT.
Also explain, Steve, the difference in engineering. We have civil engineers. We have one to work with the water authority that's professional in that part with John Spraggins. But engineering and the type engineers we have do different work.
Yeah, engineers specialize in various things, and you know, to do projects where the resolutions that we just passed involve about $9 million of upgrades and improvements to the system, upgrading the wastewater treatment plant, upgrading our collection system, water and sewer lines, major projects. And, these require a lot of specialized engineering that you, even if it wasn't mandated by ALDOT, some of this work would have had to have been done by specialized engineering firms.
Okay.
I was going to say also, they help us in preparing the applications for the funding. And also, if we had engineers that were capable of doing this, and ours may be, some of them are, we may not have enough of them to where we could do this in a timely fashion. So there's several reasons that we use outside engineering services at times and people outside the city. So I just wanted the citizens to understand that, you know, why we do that sometime, and it's for to expedite the, you know, the actual project. And then sometimes it's to where we can do other projects within the city that aren't as large as this with our people. So it's a win-win for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Council, any other comments or discussion? Okay. At this time, I'd like to call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lowe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And also, Council, on the Utilities Department, we have a resolution in reference to accepting a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporation and authorizing and directing the mayor and the city manager to sign task order 27 for the proposed professional engineering services for Summerfield Road water main extension in an amount not to exceed $180,000. Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir. Whereas the city of Phenix City, Alabama is in need of professional engineering services for its utility system. And whereas the city has received a proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated, Task Order 27, to provide professional engineering services for the Summerville Road water main extension and for preparing application to ADM for funding of capital projects through the state revolving fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Phenix City, Alabama does hereby accept the proposal from Constantine Engineering Incorporated and authorizes and directs the mayor and city manager to sign Task Order 27 for the proposed professional engineering services and for preparing the needed applications to ADM in an amount not to exceed $180,000. Passed, approved, and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee.
Yes, sir.
Council, we've heard the reading of the resolution. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to
Motion
approve.
to approve.
All right, motion, Mr. Gordon, second, Mr. Day. You have that, Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, are there any comments or discussion? All right, Mrs. Lee?
Yes. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lowe.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And council, proceeding on the ordinance, this is a second reading. We have an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinance of the City of Phenix City, Alabama, Chapter 22, Election, Section 22-1A1, districts of the city, voting places, District 1, change voting place. Again, council, this is a second reading. I would not ask the clerk to reread this due to the first reading was held on the 7th of this month. And at this time, council, I'd like to call for a motion for the approval of this ordinance. May I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion, Mr. Bailey. May I have a second?
Second.
All right, was that Mr. Day or Mrs. Johnson?
Mr. Day.
Okay, Mr. Day. Ms. Melanie, you have that? Mr. Bailey and Mr. Day?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any comments or discussion? All right, if not, call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Next on the license application, council. This is also a second reading. It is an application for an on-premise beer license, an on-premise wine license, on-premise whiskey wine license, billiard pool license, dance and live band license, dance and jukebox license, submitted by Adrian M. Haynes for Haynes Entertainment LLC, doing business as Aces on 80 Bar and Grill, located at 3928 Highway 80, Suite A and B, Phenix City, Alabama. Council, this is the second reading. The first reading was on the 7th of this month, and due to that, I would not ask the clerk to reread it. But at this time, council, I would like to ask for a motion for the approval of this license application. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
All right, motion by Mr. Gordy, and that's the second, Mr. Bailey?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
We have the motion in a second. At this time, I'd like to call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now proceeding on to our city attorney, Mr. Graham. Can you hear us?
Yes, sir. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, can everyone hear
Yes.
me? Yes, you're good to go.
Okay, we have two claims on the agenda today. Excuse me. The first is submitted by Michael Scavone. He was involved in an automobile accident on 3/18/20 at the intersection of Opelika Road and Dobbs Drive. The facts of the case is that we had a police vehicle that, even though it had its blue lights and its siren on, he went through a intersection, hit Mr. Scabone's car, and the subsequent investigation by the police department determined that our officer was at fault. Mr. Scavone has submitted 3 estimates as required, the lowest being $6,498.45. My recommendation is to approve the claim in that amount.
Thank you, Mr. Graham. Council, we've heard the recommendation from our attorney. May I have a motion to approve, please?
Motion to approve.
Motion, Mr. Gordy. May I have a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Mrs. Johnson. Okay. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next claim is submitted by Equian Event Insurance Company. It's a subrogation claim where they paid LaShanta Valentine Adams for the total destruction of her vehicle. At least it was totaled, and was going to cost more to have it repaired than to just write it off as a total loss. This is where, we discussed yesterday, truck went to the bank, the driver got out of the vehicle, with the motor running, it jumped out of gear and ran into Ms. Adams. The total certification demand is $5,210.46. My recommendation is to pay the claim in that amount.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Grant. Council, we've heard the recommendation from our attorney. I'd like to ask for a motion for the approval of that recommendation. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Motion, Mr. Day. May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Second, Mr. Bailey.
Yes.
We have that, Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. At this time, council, I'd like to call for the vote. Mrs. Lee?
Yes, sir. Councilmember Day,
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bailey,
Yes.
Councilmember Gordy,
Yes.
Mayor Lo.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
That's all,
Mr.
Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Grant. At this time, city manager, anything you would like to add or take away?
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, I would like to inform you on you've seen a lot of things that's going on today with the utility department. We're back from plans from a long time ago that we had put in place because we have a water filtration plant in the city and we have a wastewater treatment plant here that takes a lot of updating and a lot of maintenance and keep up throughout this city. We have hundreds of miles of line that goes throughout this city, connected through lift stations to take things to and from as far as waste, as far as water throughout our entire city. The utility department is a business within a business because the city is a business and it's self-sufficient majority of the time. And it takes a lot to run that. I want to remind people that it's not just within the city limits, just the city of Phoenix City. We also have contracts with Smith Station where we treat sewage with them. We have contracts with Russell County Water Authority where we sell water to them and treat some sewage. We have an agreement with Fort Mitchell where in Fort Mitchell Ward jurisdiction down off 165 where we have subdivisions that we do have the treatment and agreement with them down there where we have to do some collections throughout with one another and that things they do for us and things we do for them. We also have an agreement with Columbus where we have millions of dollars of line under the Chattahoochee for emergencies. So if we have to exchange water, exchange things to help one another out. What wasn't said in this and what I want y'all to understand is that things that we put in place years ago and this is connected again to our credit rating. The ratings we had when we do have to borrow money for these upgrades that now at this particular point, there's some things that we're getting ready to do within the next couple of months and refinancing that will just about pay for a lot of the changes that we're getting ready to make. And I'm gonna have Steve Smith to talk on what we're getting ready to do and the amount of money that we will save in the next 2 months to pay for this because of the moves that we made and put in place several years ago. Steve, you want to speak on that?
Yes, sir. We're in the process of, and as the city council knows, we've been working on since November, refinancing all of the city's debt. We're in the process of the last piece of that, which is in the water and sewer utilities. We anticipate saving about $3.5 million with this refinancing of the 2010 debt that we're working on. We'll be presenting that to the city council coming up this next month. This will pay for almost half of the total capital improvements projects that we've submitted in those resolutions that you passed earlier, and particularly combined with the $2 million grant that we got from the federal government of the $9 million worth of improvements that we're working on in those 5 resolutions. Almost $7 million of that is being, about $5.5 million of that is being paid for with grants and with the savings that we're getting over the refinancing that we're doing. And we are continually working for some additional grants, and we have good expectation that we will be able to get additional grants toward these projects.
And Steve, will you also explain why this is ongoing with the financing piece of it, the forgiveness and the particular one with the authorities that we're dealing with.
The reason that we're going through ADM and the state revolving fund is because as part of that, we get a very low interest rate. We're borrowing the money at 2.2%. In addition to that, they get federal assistance, which gives them the ability to what they call debt forgiveness, which is in effect a grant of up to half of the cost or $500,000 for each one of these projects. So we anticipate very significant savings over the next 2 years by funding these through the state revolving fund, and a portion of these costs will be forgiven and we won't have to pay back. And again, we'll be saving, about $1 million to $1.5 million of funds by going this route in terms of the debt forgiveness plus refinancing at 2.2%, which is a terrific interest rate for us to be able to finance these projects, and will save our ratepayers. And that's who we're talking about. It's the citizens of the city, because they're paying the cost and the ratepayers and the fees that they pay every month for the water and sewer service. And this is partially why we have the lowest water and sewer cost in the entire region. We're at least 35% below everybody else in this system, and some of the areas charge as much as twice as much as we do for water and sewer. And these kind of projects and doing them the way we're doing are the reason that we have the lowest cost water and sewer system in the entire region.
I also want to say, expand on this. Almost 12 years ago, we put together a grant team that's been working and specialized in going after every grant. The department heads are encouraged, and they've done a good job all the way from the library, all the way up to, like I say, engineering. Right now, the COVID-19, I put Fitz Kennedy, fire chief, in charge of searching for all grants that we can have in recovery funds, because we've also have to work on a plan for hazard pay for some of our first line operators that are out there in front. We started this, HR is looking into this deeply. So I'll probably be coming back to you all on this, but first we've gotten out there to take a look at what we can recover. You see what Chief Smith has already done as far as with the police department, but Chief Kennedy is working on that portion. But all department heads are encouraged to look at this and meet together, because we can take our city, and we have taken this city way beyond what we could have done with just regular city funds. And a lot of them, they seem to have a lot of fun with it. Sean in economic development worked a lot with utility on this last $1.9 million that we just received. So they are having a pretty good time reaching out and knowing, so we could do a lot more within our city limits and in the boundaries for people, and with the funds that we can recover and bring in. And that's what we are doing, working on a lot now, because, we have a lot of people talking about opening up cities, and they're going to try to do that. And I understand a lot of people need jobs, and we have to be very careful in what we are doing here. But also we've had to be especially careful with the people that work for the city, because most people have noticed the city don't close, and we haven't been able to close. But at the same time, we have to see about our personnel the same way when we're talking about opening up these cities and letting people back in. People need to take a look at our healthcare providers. A lot of them have lost their life during this pandemic, and it's serious, because those are professionally trained people, and you just don't train them overnight. And we have to have that, just like our frontline operators. But I'm proud to say that these people have worked diligently and worked very hard to keep things up, and I'm exceptionally proud of this team that worked for this city. And I want all of you all to know that I thank you all for that, and keep up the good work. And I really do appreciate what you all are doing. And Mayor and Council, I appreciate you all's understanding. And for the public that's watching, I will appreciate, do appreciate, and will continue to appreciate your patience and your understanding with us as we go through this. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Certainly appreciate you all. As Mr. Hunter just said, we can't thank you all enough, and can't thank the council enough. We appreciate what you all do, and what we all do for the right is important. So with that said, is anyone, before we close out, any council member have anything that they would like to say? Okay.
Mayor, if I can just say just a couple of quick comments. I too thank our citizens for their understanding. And also, we just got a couple of calls, and these just something that just recently happened, or on just responding to some of the calls that I received. And I want our citizens to know that our city really understands the potential problems associated with water. You know, we just had a downpour on Sunday. We had 100% of rain. According to our weather report, we had over 6 inches of rain in that one day. So we do have roads and areas that may be a little higher than normal. And so I just caution everyone, if you are out at any given time, be cautious of those roadways that may be filled with water. But we are, just like some of the projects that we are working on, those long-term 5-year plan projects to improve infrastructure and structure throughout the city. So we have one of the best drainage systems. So those waters should be receding anytime, you know, as of yesterday and today. So be careful when you're out and about. I did get a couple of calls about that. And while we are confined to our homes in a way, don't forget about the census. The census 2020 is one of the most important piece of information that we can all participate in, and it's so important. So while you're at home, if you haven't done so, please get your census information in. It is via online, by phone, or by mail. So please get your census information in. It takes all of 5 to 7 minutes at the most. So pretty, we're pretty much on target with making sure that every citizen participate. This is one of those things that everyone get a chance to participate in. And it really goes back to our community, whether or not we'll get the funding necessary to make sure that we can continue these major projects and road improvements and such. School, everything, healthcare, everything evolves around the census being completed. And lastly, I just want to say again, at a time like this, and I think we're all feeling a certain way, but we all need to come together once again and understand the economic impact on this earthly pandemic, something that we have never seen and hope to never witness again. But do understand that when you're out, continue practicing social distancing. Do a mask or a face covering when you're out. This is to not only protect ourselves, but others that we come in contact with. And thank you again for the city leaders, city workers, and all those essential workers that go out every day to make sure that we have a place, a safe place to live, work, and worship. So thank you again to all of my constituents. I hear you, and thank you, Phenix City, for the great work that you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
With that said, let me say this is, you know, things is tough right now, and I'm just a firm believer, and I think we all believe this and have some consensus with this, is that when things get hard, that's the time to give more of yourself. And as I've stated before, for 2 reasons. One, to show how awesome we are collectively, but more importantly, to show how awesome God is. So let's continue to be mindful of that. Let's keep humility. And humility is true humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. And as the council, that's what we have to do. We have to come last, and we have to be sacrificial with that attitude. So I thank you all so very, very much for giving of yourself and your time. And thanks CTV Beams for bringing this to our citizen. It gives us a great opportunity to show how transparent we are and to show our pure motives as far as doing things for the right reason. Thank you all so very much, and we do stand adjourned.